it, Bruce Willis! Why do you have to keep showing up in my science fiction movies? Your eyes are staring into my soul. Welcome back to Fictional, the show where we look at cool tech and science from your favorite movies, TV shows, books, and comics and ask, is this really possible? And if not, why not? Last week, my fears of a dinosaur apocalypse were put to rest after talking to Dr. Lisa White, a paleontologist from UC Berkeley. How close is the science in Jurassic Park to what we actually know?
Well, the terrific thing about the making of the movie is that Michael Crichton and Steven Spielberg actually consulted with a number of paleontologists.
There was a ton of buzz about the film Looper when it came out, and @Cody Elizabeth tells me, definitely do time travel since Looper just came out. Here's an article that I read recently about it. Dave Friedel says, why did the mother remember what happened if old Bruce Willis never existed? Spoiler alert. Looper is the perfect time-traveling assassin combination with just enough Joseph Gordon-Levitt and possibly a little bit too much Bruce Willis. Why is he always so angry about everything? Today we are very lucky to talk to respected theoretical physicist and time travel expert, Dr. Ronald Mallett. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so wonderful to meet you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on your program.
Can you give us a little background on your studies?
My studies in time travel actually began when I was a child. It goes way back. When I was 10 years old, my father, he was the center of my life. And he died unexpectedly of a massive heart attack when he was only 33. And I was devastated. I mean, it turned my world inside out. But the thing is that one of the gifts he left me was a gift of love of reading. And I loved reading science fiction in particular. And about a year after he died, when I was 11, I came across a book that changed my life, was H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. And that was the beginning of my journey, because I thought if I could build a time machine, then I could see him again and maybe save his life. When I eventually became a physicist, I studied black holes, because it turns out that by studying black holes, I could understand how time was affected. I actually had my breakthrough in time travel research back in 2000. That's when I first realized, based on Einstein's work, how it might be actually possible to find a way to build a time machine. Time, normally for all of us, passes along a straight line. We're unconscious of it, of course, but we move along a timeline that goes from the past, yesterday, to the present, today, to the future. It's a straight line in time, okay? What happens is that you can actually use gravity to twist time into a loop.
And so is that why they call the movie Looper? Is it the same kind of concept?
It's interesting, and I'll come to that, because the thing is that because you can twist time into a loop, you can actually go from the past, present, to future, but you can go from the future back to the past because you're on a loop. So that, using Einstein's general theory of relativity and how gravity affects time, that will allow us to go back into the past. Now, you mentioned Looper, okay? And you know, that movie that was a great movie. I mean, the thing is that it was a thinking person's time travel movie.
So how close are we to that actual science? Is it something that you see as being a believable kind of time travel, or were they way off the mark?
Well, the thing is that what they were smart enough to do is not explain how they did it.
That is a good point. That is absolutely true.
That was a very wise thing, because all of a sudden I and every other scientist would have been jumping on it. But they were smart. They didn't say how they did it. They just simply said they did it. And the thing is that everything about the story and the way they did it was okay, except for the fact that there is a limitation to the system. And if they had just used that in the movie, it would have made it a little closer to what we really believe can happen. And the reason why I say that there's this limitation is the fact that with a real time machine that can go back into the past, when you turn the device on today, it's the device that starts creating the effect, the twisting of space and time, okay? So let's suppose I turn it on today and I leave it on for 100 years, okay? Continuously, okay? Then someone 100 years could come back 25 years, 50 years, all the way back to the time the machine was turned on. But they can't go back earlier than that, because it's the device that's creating the effect. See, this answers the question that people would sometimes ask, which is, if we have a time machine, how come we're not inundated with time travel tourists, right? Well, what the answer is that a human scale time machine has not yet been invented, because you have to have something for the time traveler to materialize into. It can't just simply materialize into nothing.
I read so much science fiction, and I have never really seen that kind of concept laid out in a plot of a time-traveling story, that you can't go back further than when the time machine was invented originally.
So in the movie, if they had wanted to be a little bit more consistent with science, what they would have done is they could have done it in the same way, but they would have had to have had said the government projects started back in,
back in the original back time.
Back in the original past.
In the past,
and then so sometime in the future, they could say that in the future that it had been outlawed, okay?
Now, what are some of the dangers inherent in time travel? Would you have to actually be destroyed? Would your matter have to be broken down completely in order to travel into the past? Or would you actually be moving as one unit through space-time?
If you were unfortunate enough to fall off of a building, a little bit of you doesn't fall, your head doesn't fall within your arm, you know what I mean? You fall as a unit. That's because in gravity accelerates everything at the same rate. Going into the future, all of you would go, and going into the past, all of you would go.
And it would be the same you, it wouldn't be a carbon copy.
No, that's right, yeah, it would be the same you. And in fact, if you counted yourself in the past, you would be encountering a younger version of yourself because you're the older one. Just like, in other words, what they did in Looper is exactly what would happen.
So overall, would you give time travel in the Looper context a fact or a fictional?
Time travel in the past is possible. So that part of the fiction is potentially fact because of Einstein's theories, okay? Whether or not he would arrive in our universe or in a parallel universe, that's something that's open because we haven't done the experiment yet, you see. Okay? So we do know that time can be controlled by gravity. So that's why I'm saying there's a real scientific base to that. But what will happen when we actually travel back into the past, we don't know that yet.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mallett. I could just talk to you all day about this. This is so fascinating to me, and it's so cool. Can people follow your work online in any particular place?
www.physics.uconn.edu.
I really hope Dr. Mallett continues his search for the answers to time travel, but for now, I'm giving Looper time travel a fictional. Don't get mad at me. I'm saying this only based on what the movie shows us. They did not have a receiver built in that past world in the film, so therefore, based on what Dr. Mallett told us, they could not have traveled back. But I believe that after that discussion, that time travel is very, very possible, actually surprisingly so. Looper is still an awesome movie, and if you don't agree with me on any of this, let's fight it out in the comments. Go watch the full interview. Also, make sure you definitely watch that. The link is below as well. And you want your face on Fact or Fictional? Let me know your theories on time travel. Also, let me know what tech or science you want to see right here on the show. If it's tricky enough, you might see yourself on a future episode. Until next week, I'm Veronica Belmont, and this is Fact or Fictional on TechFeed. Be sure to subscribe to see all of our new shows. See you next time.
It's very, very rare for mosquitoes from the Jurassic period to be preserved in amber, and so the likelihood of being able to find a mosquito with preserved blood, in the amber that has extractable DNA is a bit of a leap.